Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Coffee and Cannoli. Once again, back with that fatal four-way. We have Muscles Marinara, aka the Espresso Master, right below me, Caps. Next to Caps, we have the Putty Man himself, Putty Man. And on my side over here, we got Campo Reviews. Everybody, welcome back.
Hi.
Oh, hi. I forgot I was supposed to talk. I forgot I could use words.
I actually changed my name, by the way.
To Jimothy? The real Putty Man
Goldberg. Goldberg. So, once again, with that Goldberg chant, needless to say, this will be another episode about wrestling, and we'll be going down our top 5 wrestling factions, stables, whatever you want to call them. So, without any further ado, Caps, start us off with your number 5.
Yeah, this fifth one was a tough one. I'm going to go with the Corporation solely for the fact that I was a huge Rock fan. And his heel persona pretty much made that group in my eyes. So I'm going to go Corporation on that.
It was all about the Rock in that group. That pretty much launched him to superstardom.
Yep.
Buddy Man, what's your number 5?
My number 5 is the Four Horsemen. Low on the list, but it's because there's a bunch of there's 4 other ones I just love so much. Like you're kidding me.
All right, fair enough.
The original
Four Horsemen.
Yeah,
I guess.
Original Four Horsemen.
Yeah. Campo.
You will now refer to me as the unsexy boy Mon Shikos.
Mon Shikos.
He's an unsexy boy. Sexy boy.
Anyways, my number 5 is the Nation of Domination.
Very good pick. Very good.
I can take that off my honorables.
My number 5 is something a little bit more recent. My number 5 is the Wyatt family.
Yeah, see, I don't even know what that means. Accepted.
Bray Wyatt.
No, I'm familiar.
I know who that is.
Yeah, his faction.
My number 4 is the Nation of Domination. Sticking with the Rock theme.
But so the Rock iteration of Nation of Domination, not the one with like Farouk and D'Lo and like
that was pretty cool too.
Dude.
Like,
okay, so
was there, Rock, Mark Henry, like
we'll clarify this now.
And then
Clarence
afterwards,
Mason.
Mine is the full thing. Mine is them at the maximum, like everybody in it, the Godfather, the Rock, like everybody.
Yeah.
When they were actually like super imposing and unstoppable.
Yeah. When they were a great force.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay, continue.
My number 4 is the Ministry of Darkness.
All right. My number 4 is, so not surprising, but I'm pretty sure that I'm going to get hate from the right side of the screen. It's the Hart Foundation.
No, you won't get any hate from me because that's my number 4 as well.
Okay, good. Caps is upset.
Yeah,
it's fine. It's everybody's.
Well, we can discuss about it.
Caps is like, I will hurt you later.
No, come on.
Yeah. It's your turn.
Yeah, Caps, go for it. Your number 3. My number 4 is Hart. Yeah, my number 4 is the Hart Foundation as well.
My number 3 is the Four Horsemen, the original Four Horsemen.
Well, I guess I'll keep it the same with them because my number 3 is the Hart Foundation.
Nice.
All right. My number 3 is D-Generation X.
Very good. My number 3 is the group that stole the Too Sweet, the Bullet Club.
Nice.
Ooh.
My number 2 is the NWO.
My number 2 is D-Generation X.
My number 2 is the Four Horsemen, Blanchard, Flair, Anderson.
My number 2 is the NWO.
My number 1 is the Hart Foundation.
I guess I know what your number 1 is coming, but Putty?
Yeah, my number 1 is it's my number 1, right?
Yeah.
My number 1 is NWO, and I did as a combination. I just decided to add the Wolfpack in there, all NWO.
Okay, so here's where it gets really sticky for me because my number 1 is the NWO and the Wolfpack. So
yeah, I did them both. I had to combine them. For me, that's how it works.
Whereas my number 1 is the Four Horsemen of Tully Blanchard, Arn Anderson, Ric Flair, and Ollie Anderson.
Yeah, I knew that was coming.
Look at the manager,
JJ Dillon.
JJ Dillon. Don't forget JJ Dillon.
JJ Dillon, yeah. But then even the iteration after Ole Anderson left, what was his name? Tully Blanchard, and he's in geez, I'm drawing a blank now.
Barry Windham.
Barry Windham, yeah.
That's also a really good
Yeah.
combo. Also, there was potential for the Benoit Malenko one to go very well.
Yes, that was
if
the
they
modern-
got Anderson and not Mongo McMichaels.
not Mongo McMichaels. Is he still alive?
I was almost thinking about combining that with the other Horsemen, because the thing is when I grew up with the original Four Horsemen, or seeing it at least, I liked it a lot, but I think I was not too young. It was just a matter of like, it was old videos, and then I was really brought into when the new Four Horsemen came out, so it kind of like made me go back and look at stuff like that. But that's also why I kind of got number 5, is because it wasn't one of those things that I was thrown into and was like intensified as much as like stuff like the NWO Degeneration.
Yeah.
And Heart Foundation literally was right there perfectly in the situation where you had the whole situation with Hulk and all that kind of stuff, and that started going away a little bit more. It was decimating, and with the Ultimate Warrior, and then the Heart Foundation really took off. You know what I mean? And it was just amazing to watch them. And then it also was kind of messed up with the stuff that happened too. So that's why I had to put that. Yeah.
For me, like, to explain my number 1, I put the Horsemen as number 1 only because I grew up with the Horsemen. I was watching during that era those feuds with the Horsemen and Magnum TA and what's his name there, Dusty Rhodes. Like, some of the best Ric Flair promos came out of that's where the whole limousine ride and jet flying that came out of that iteration of the Horsemen. For me, that's why Horsemen, like the Ric Flair promos alone, had to be.
I mean,
well, I think no, the reason I want to bring it up is because of our age just being just slightly off. I think what it is I was literally right after when Hulk was huge. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was the whole Andre the Giant, Hulk, Ultimate Warrior, that whole thing that was going on then, and that's the reason why, like, I was gonna ask you guys, like, because I think you guys have already done a tag team podcast for it.
We did one.
And there was a lot of tag team people that was like, crap, I kind of want to include them because they may have had 3, but they only alternated between 2. So
like the Freebirds and stuff.
Yeah,
like
and what's the I can't think of, I just went brain fart. They wore the shoulder pads with the spikes. What's the name?
Legion of Doom.
Yeah, Legion of Doom. I didn't know if that would be considered a faction or not, and I almost wanted to put them on the list because I love the Legion of Doom so much. But I didn't really. I don't think Legion Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So that's the reason why that was kind of like, I felt like.
I think it was because they had a manager, Paul Ellering.
Exactly.
Now, if you include Demolition,
see, that's why that
would have been a faction because it's 3 people.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what was
confusing. Smash and Crush. But then again, in the early 2000s, I think right after Hawk, or was it Hawk, or Hawk passed away?
There was 3, right?
Yeah, there was Heidenreich that joined them for a while.
That's the reason I was confused, because it felt like there was still more tag team, because there was never 3 all around at one point, if that makes sense.
See, something like the New Day would be considered a faction, right?
I was close to putting them on my list because I just think that they're pretty cool, but
I put them in my honorable mentions now that we just mentioned it, because there's a lot that I put in honorable mentions that had like more of a 3, but they only really had 2 in the ring, and sometimes it may have been just 2 people at one point, and that's when I feel like it's no longer a faction.
They didn't make my list because I find Xavier Woods annoying.
Well,
well, I'm just gonna talk now because Putty's been talking. Yeah. I have Four Horsemen at 2. I didn't really grow up with the Four Horsemen, but I think without the Four Horsemen, there's no such thing as factions going forward, because, as you said, at that point of time, a faction was just a group of family members. Like, what's the one where all the brothers died?
Oh, the Von Erichs.
The Von Erichs. So it was those were like considered like what a faction was, but like Four Horsemen took it to a new level with the promos and stuff. It was never like that. And
that's where the
modern faction doesn't exist.
Yeah. That's where the term stable came from, was the Four Horsemen, because you keep horses in a stable. So they called themselves the stable of the Four Horsemen was a stable, right? So that's where the term came from originally. But yeah, you're right. Without the Four Horsemen, I've
also gone back and watched all that stuff. When I was a huge wrestling fan, I wasn't just like a casual wrestling fan. Like, I consumed wrestling at such a massive like rate. I knew everything about it, and Four Horsemen are amazing.
I think the reason being, or the reasons being why the Four Horsemen were so successful, is because they were living the life.
Mhm.
It was pretty much an extension of their character,
Who they were.
their real life character, their personalities, all that stuff. They were just being themselves, and just times 100.
But I mean, it also worked out so well too, because you had four people and 3 titles. So Ric Flair was your world champion, Tully Blanchard was your United States champion, and you had the Andersons as your tag champions. So like they held all the gold basically, right, in the NWA.
They were
So
all
it's
good
like-
workers too. So
Yeah, like I know Arn gets a lot of love, but people don't give Ollie enough credit for what he did.
Ollie can piss people off, man.
I mean,
Yeah.
Arn was a really good wrestler, though.
Yes. Technically, Arn was probably one of the best, and if not, probably the toughest of that era.
Yeah.
And then the other night on Dynamite, he threatened to shoot somebody with a gun.
Yeah.
I should watch that show.
Dynamite's excellent.
I actually been watching a little bit more of AEW as of late, and
That's fantastic programming. Speaking of AEW, I wanted to get into an honorable mention, which is the Elite, which is basically a splinter cell of the Bullet Club, where you have Kenny Omega, Gallows, Anderson. You have the Young Bucks, probably one of the greatest tag teams out there right now, and now you just have Adam Cole join them too. Like they're a good faction too.
Okay, well, I mean, there was one that I kept seeing, and I just didn't include it. Was the Heenan family,
Mhm.
because
some
they're
of my
so
honorable mentions.
yeah, but there's such a separated time frame of all those wrestlers being part of it, except for maybe
Yeah.
Mr. Perfect and Owen Hart is like the
Right.
only ones where it was like close to each other.
But then again, you also had King Kong Bundy, but then there was that big gap from King Kong Bundy to Mr.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And then you had the
was Rick
Haku
Rude?
and the
Barbarian?
the Barbarian.
yeah.
Hercules.
Okay, so here I'm gonna throw one out there because
Sure.
I actually really like this one. This is in my honorable mentions. It's the Dangerous Alliance
Mhm.
with
With
Paul
Stunning
Heyman,
Stunning Steve
Stunning
Austin.
Steve, Larry
Mhm.
Zbyszko, Arn Anderson, Rick Rude, and Medusa. That's like a ridiculously good faction.
Yeah. And this is all basically Zbyszko towards the tail end of his career, but everybody else in that group was just like ready to take off.
Yeah. And Paul Heyman was the talker of talkers.
Yeah. That's where the cell phone gimmick started from too. He had that Zach
That
Morris
big
phone.
cell phone.
Yeah.
Zach Morris phone.
The Zach
Classic
Morris phone.
Zach Morris.
Yeah.
I mean, I got a lot. The Ministry
I got
of
a few more,
Darkness.
too.
Who had the Ministry of Darkness? Somebody had it on
That
the
was
list.
me. Well, actually, I've got a bunch of honorable mentions, but I was actually surprised knowing. And I guess I'm not. I'm not like think about the Ministry of Darkness. I can understand
Okay.
why no one else. On
The
the
Ministry
list,
of Darkness. The lineup is amazing. The Undertaker, Farouk and Bradshaw, Mideon, Viscera, and
Yeah.
then Christian Edge and Gangrel. That's amazing. The problem
And
was
China
they
came
didn't
in too,
last
didn't
long
she?
before they became part of the
corporate-
corporation.
Yeah.
Which
But
I also have. Is the corporation is my
but
only other
corporations
one
in my
on
honorable
this.
mention.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
My
it was
only other one.
then they became the corporate ministry, where they
Ministry,
added the
yeah.
Undertaker. No, they added they brought in who was part of that? That was Big Boss Man and Ken Shamrock, I think, was part of that
Ken
as well.
Shamrock.
Was Steve Blackman part of that too?
No, I don't think so.
No.
Test was part of it.
Yeah, Test.
I think the
Yeah.
Ministry of Darkness was a little too ahead of its time.
Yeah, I mean,
that's,
But I
that's the one
loved
where they
it
tried
so
to
much,
crucify
though.
Stephanie.
Yeah.
Like it was
Oh.
just
Well, I'll admit there was also the time that I felt like Stephanie. She was putting herself out there way more, and I was at that age where I was like, Stephanie's kind of hot, even though she kind of, she's got a body on her. Let's put it that way. But
that was like the first time you would see her on television. Like that was like
Yeah.
around
Exactly.
Stephanie
Yeah.
was. I always found Stephanie attractive. They played her to be younger than she was. You know that, right? Like
Yeah.
Oh, I
she was
know, I
actually
know.
a lot older than she was playing. But what was the name of the stupid team? Shane McMahon's team, the something posse.
Oh, the Mean Street
Mean
Posse
Street
Main
Posse.
Street Posse.
with
Yeah.
Pete Gas.
Yeah, they were part of the corporate ministry.
Yeah. Yeah, Shane
I have at
McMahon's
least-
faction. I forgot about that one. Then there was a time on Raw too in the mid to late 90s. You had like all the factions. You had DOA and you had it was like 4 or 5 different
Gangs.
groups.
Yeah, we talked about it. It was
Yeah,
the Legion of Doom, Los Bariquas,
Los Bariquas. That's
the
the one. Yeah.
bikers, whatever they were
The
called, DOA.
disciples of DOA, disciples
And
of
then
Apocalypse.
there's one other one, but we can never remember it.
Do
But-
you remember the oddities?
Yes, the
The
oddities.
Oddities,
With,
yeah.
I'm mad
what's
that
his
it's on
name?
the list
He's
not done.
one of the guys from the Oddity. He's like the guy
Big-time
who played
actor?
Kurgan. He's a
Yeah.
huge actor. He's a big time actor now.
Yeah, yeah. I think the musical group was the rap group was in there in that group too,
Insane
right?
Clown Posse.
Insane Clown Posse,
Yeah.
yeah. But then didn't they join? Like they did WCW for a while too, or was that
Mhm.
no? Master
No.
P was in WCW.
The Master P was in WC, but
The Loman-
Insane Clown Posse did WCW as well.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Now they still run Juggalo Championship Wrestling.
Yeah, who cares?
Yeah, nobody cares about Juggalo Championship. ICP fans come at me.
Yeah, and I have at least 10 more that weren't named, so I was knocking them
10.
off my list.
I named all 3 of my honorable mentions.
Oh, I
no.
got a few too.
I don't
I got
think
quite a
anyone
bit.
else deserves to be here.
Well, here's the thing. These were again honorable mentions that at least caught my attention. Whenever I put someone honorable mentions, something at least caught my attention and had my attention for a little bit. For example, the Shield, like
Yeah,
And
the
I hate
Shield.
them.
See,
That's
I
on my
liked the
honorable
Shield when they
mentions.
first came out. Like I loved the way they approached everything. It was only, I would say, maybe the first 2 weeks they were awesome, and then they got boring. Like that's what it was for me in the Shield. But I felt hell if they gave me at least 2 weeks of attention that made me love them, I had to put on the list.
You could definitely have Evolution. Evolution
yeah.
That's
is
my
I was
next
gonna
one on
say
my list, yeah.
Evolution
good
is definitely up.
wrestlers.
Yeah, Evolution. Not a fan of Evolution, Caps. What don't you like about Evolution?
Triple H.
Yeah, but Triple H is still one of the better workers that exists. So, I mean, it doesn't
No.
matter how you feel. It's a
I mean,
fact.
that's just my opinion. That's your
Yeah.
opinion. I was not a fan
No,
of
no,
DX.
that's not
I
my
was
opinion,
not a
that's
fan
fact.
of Triple H. To me, Triple H, and this is not a knock on the man,
Yeah,
Triple H. I mean, I'm sure he's a nice guy, but I just don't like the character. To me, he was the guy that
he thought he was Ric Flair.
he was the guy that faced the star. Like he wasn't as big of a star as everybody
Thought
thinks
he was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just don't think he is.
Listen, do you want me to tell you why this is an opinion, not a fact? The reason he got so big was not just because he was a kiss ass and he was married to Stephanie. It's because at the time when he blew up, there was nobody else around him. That's when everybody had just gone. Austin was gone. Kurt Angle was basically useless at that point.
The Rock was gone.
The Rock was gone. It was only Triple H was the only real big name.
You had Triple H and you had a young Randy Orton who wasn't ready for that yet.
You had Undertaker who kept having like injuries, and then you had Shawn Michaels who kept having injuries. So it was like there was nobody on. You had Kane maybe.
I just look at Evolution as a Four Horsemen knockoff. Sorry,
It is, but that's what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Well,
then again, there was also the group in, I don't know if anybody's familiar with Impact Wrestling, but you had basically another exact same group in Impact called Fortune with AJ Styles, Ric Flair. I think Bobby Roode was in that as well. It was essentially the same thing.
Yeah, I mean
Now-
that's what I'm saying. But they created that, right? Like,
Yeah.
they're the one to rip off because they started everything. And if you put Ric Flair in it, it counts. You know what I mean?
I mean, one group that had a lot of potential too was Legacy, which was all second and third generation.
They didn't get enough time to do what they should have done.
And like, I mean, because you had Cody Rhodes, you had DiBiase Jr., you had Orton in that group where Orton became a superstar. Cody Rhodes basically runs AEW at this point. Like, it's, say what you will about him. I'm not a fan of Cody, but
Well, you guys just mentioned two that were actually had their own establishments, which was Team Angle and the $1 Million Corporation. Those were two that I put in my honorable mentions just because it's like when I was going through this list and actually picking out honorable mentions, I was looking at things that at least caught my attention. Because people might say I didn't like them, but if they were crucial in making other ones happy to me, then I feel like they deserve at least an honorable mention. Does that make sense? Like, for example, if they weren't like, I didn't like them myself, but for example, they encouraged, I'm trying to think of a good example, but they encouraged another faction to be popular for me. Then that would, because you gotta have
like the LWO, the Latino World Order.
Exactly.
That's on my honorable mentions.
There you go. See, that's my whole point.
Hey, they were fun to watch. I love them.
Yeah, they had a great roster of people.
Yeah, it's just that they were
luchadors, the
pushed as
cruiserweights.
yeah, but they were pushed as a joke. That's the only problem with that.
Yeah.
Well, then
But
that
they-
means what about like La Familia? Since we're talking about that, then you know what I mean. Like no one brought that one up either. So
Yeah.
sorry.
I mean, I wasn't a fan of that one, but okay, if you want to say something that caught your attention that was huge in those days of WCW when they were hitting everything, Ravens Flock.
Yeah, WCW. I mean, ECW Ravens Flock was arguably better than
Yes,
that.
I think he
but
called it Raven's Nest and
Ravens
ECW.
Nest.
Yeah.
The Flock was good though. You had Perry Saturn. You had who else?
The
was
guy
in
with
it?
the eye patch, Scotty Riggs.
Scotty Riggs, and there was one more guy, right? Wasn't it 4 people?
There was another, I think Van Hammer. It was Van Hammer, Loki or Lodi, the guy who always used to carry the signs.
Yeah, there was some ECW had some good ones. What was the hilarious one that they brought to fight Hulk
There was the
Hogan?
Dudleys. If you want to talk ECW, you got to talk to Dudleys.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that
But,
counts
but
because there's
that's
3.
but that's the problem.
No,
Yeah, 'cause
there was
I always-
more than 3 in ECW.
Yeah, there
Was there?
Yeah.
There was like 10 of them, and there was like
Yeah.
10 Dudleys in ECW. There was Big Dick Dudley, there was Sign Guy Dudley, there was Tie Dye Dudley. There's like a bunch of different Dudleys.
They're all tie-dye Dudley.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, you know what? Something just came into my head, and I totally forgot about them. But I'm changing my last pick from
No,
the corporation to. Yeah, I'm doing it. This is a Caps move. I'm
Yeah,
changing my
it is.
number. I'm changing my number 5 from corporation to BWO. I
The
don't care.
BWO. Yes.
I don't
Alright,
care.
fine,
I
I'll allow
forgot
it.
about the
That one,
BWO.
The blue
I'm wearing
meanie?
blue, so
Yeah,
we'll allow it. The blue
because
meanie.
we were talking about ECW factions. and
Wasn't
I
Blue
totally
Meanie in the
forgot about
Raven's
BWO.
Nest?
For a while, but he wasn't Blue Meanie though. He was I forgot his name in that, but yeah. But Blue Meanie was also, I think he was in but he was part of the Blue BWO when you were in
Yeah.
WWF.
Okay, what about the
at time.
FBI? They've been around forever. You might not like them, but they've literally
true.
been around forever.
That's true. Yeah, Nunzio.
Yeah, it's like I know what you're gonna do. Just pretend you're Italians, but we are. Okay,
But-
just pretend.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah, this guy gets it.
Nunzio. The Disco Inferno. Wasn't Disco? No.
Okay,
No,
let's,
Vito. Johnny
we
the
gotta
Bull.
we gotta take a second here because
Yeah,
we gotta talk about the
About-
NWO. We're not talking
Yes.
about the NWO enough. I mean, we talk about it in every episode.
Yes, so we
but
got to talk about NWO.
The impact that they had on wrestling, the reason they're my number 1 is because they are the coolest thing to ever happen to wrestling, and they changed the entire face of wrestling forever.
But let me add to that because they are also the worst thing to
Yes.
ever happen to wrestling.
But that's what I mean. They're the biggest thing to happen because they not only changed everything, they also destroyed an entire company.
Yep. Agreed. Which
Like,
we touched upon a bit
Yeah,
in the
well,
WCW
exactly.
episode.
But then the
yeah,
Wolfpack was like everything.
they
you-
revitalized it.
You hated NWO now. You went from loving them to hating them, and then boom, the Wolfpack came, and the NWO like did a full circle where you love them, and then all of those guys became the NWO again, and then the NWO started all over.
And then they started NWO Classic, and then
Yeah,
was it NWO 2000?
Yeah.
That was the one with Hart, right? And Jeff Jarrett.
But that's the reason why I couldn't
Booker
count them.
T.
They're literally Wolfpack and just the original NWO were the two
NWO and
that, like,
Wolfpack belong together in a category. I
Yeah.
strongly.
Well, I mean, the
believe that.
Wolfpack was like the cooler, I guess at the time, the cooler faction, I guess you can call them, because you had Nash, you had
They got
Conan,
Sting.
Sting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sting, but I mean Conan. Like, I mean, like when he used to come into the ring with his Orale Arriba la Raza, like he got the crowd fired up with that.
To me, I gotta say the Sting is the biggest factor because it was a fight over who was going to get Sting, and they got Sting. And at
Right.
that point, Crow Sting was the coolest person that existed in WCW.
Mhm.
Yeah, he was. Sting was
This is just
definitely-
funny. I know there was like a whole situation happening outside of wrestling, but didn't like Flair was kind of absent for this whole thing. Like the WCW team there that had Roddy Piper and DDP, they could have used Ric Flair, or the Four Horsemen could have been a huge part of that to combating both of those teams, right?
Yep.
You could have had a third faction.
I think
they
Flair
came
and
at the end.
Bischoff, Flair and Bischoff at the time were having a falling out. And
Well, that's-
basically, they told Flair to stay home.
Well, yeah, remember that's where we had the conversation we talked about. We said Bischoff just like Ted Turner literally let Bischoff just take control, and I think Flair just did not like the way everything was going with the NWO and everything, which I can understand. You know what I mean? What made WCW great compared to WWE at that time was that WWE was going for that, like they were trying to do the whole edgy both sides were, and you could tell Flair wanted to stick with what the traditional wrestling was. You know what I mean? And so. That's the reason why when that whole thing happened and Bischoff took over, I could see why Flair was like, but at the same time, I agree. They brought back the Horsemen, the Four Horsemen, and actually utilized it as a way to.
But
take
they
down
did bring back the Four Horsemen with Malenko.
Yeah,
Well,
but
yeah.
It was that was like at the
But it just-
NWO 2000 point.
Yeah.
It just
But
You know, it was a little bit
Yeah.
before that. I
Maybe
think.
a little bit, yeah. But I was watching a bunch of things, okay. And the real downfall of WCW was Thursday Night Thunder. They
Part of it. I imagine.
they couldn't handle writing more wrestling. They didn't have the staff, so they just started having random people just write storylines. And
they would have the wrestlers book themselves, basically.
Yeah, and then it was all live, right? WWE was only doing one live show a month. They were doing 2 live shows a week.
Yeah. Yeah,
To me, it was bad booking. It was politics, bad contracts. And when I say bad contracts, I'm talking about Hogan's contract, which allowed him creative control.
But also the guaranteed money. People didn't care because they were getting paid regardless.
Yeah, but in the sense as to why WCW had that downfall, it's because, to me, when you look at WWE, McMahon runs the damn thing. When you look at WCW, to me, it's the inmates running the asylum. It's not Bischoff.
But it got that way because of Ted Turner money. Ted Turner had way more money than WWE had at that point, and he was offering big money to steal all those people, right? Yeah, and if you look at the breakdown of that time, it's so like they were getting paid so much money that they didn't care that the storylines were bad. If you look at it how it is nowadays, no wrestlers would put up with that nonsense that was happening towards the last 2 years of WCW.
Look what's happening right now. They're throwing money at people like Daniel Bryan, at CM Punk, but they're choosing to leave WWE to go to AEW because there they have that creative freedom where they actually care about the matches, where they actually care about developing characters. Like, I mean, a couple weeks ago, there was a match between Kenny Omega and Daniel Bryan that opened Dynamite, okay? It went for the 30-minute time limit, and nobody was upset that there was no winner because it was just such a fantastic match.
Well, this sounds like exactly like why there was a problem in the first place. Like you said yourself, you guys said that Vince McMahon controlled WWE. There's one man in control. It's kind of like looking at Kevin Feige in Marvel Universe just as a reference. You know what I mean? But then you had WCW where you had Hogan and Bischoff, and then you had Bischoff, but then you had Hogan and Kevin Nash and Scott Hall all wanting to have like the spotlight, you know what I mean? And so it ended up taking the spotlight from others that may have been deserving of it. And but they also had that creative control, but they didn't know how to properly do it. It sounds like I haven't been paying attention to new wrestling. What you guys know, I guess, with AWA, that they understand you can't take the spotlight because it's not entertaining and it's about the fans. So it sounds like they've understood the balance and solve all that.
But another factor too was Eric Bischoff. He was the guy who was running WCW at the time. And he was trying so hard to fit in with the boys that whatever they would whisper in his ear, yeah, okay, no problem. Yeah, okay, no problem. Yeah, do it. Yeah. You know, we're going to do the finger poke of doom. Go ahead. Like,
and I'm going to go back to Campos's point, which I kind of disagree with. He made up the point where those guys were making so much money, they didn't care what the storylines were. I think they did care what the storylines were because
you had Jericho leave, you had Malenko leave.
Yeah, you have a company going. If you have a company going, taking that kind of a downfall, you're gonna get paid anything or any money afterwards when the thing's out of business.
Who left? Who left?
The talented people.
But tell me who left.
You had Jericho leave.
Jericho left because his contract was up. None of them had expired. All of them had expired.
But not only that, they wouldn't push Jericho. Jericho wanted a match against Goldberg, and they wouldn't.
That's what I'm saying. If you're under a guaranteed contract for that much money, you don't give a shit what's happening. You're making so much money. Those guys left because they're like, we're done with this.
I disagree.
With expired who left that had a contract still running? Ric Flair sat out and got paid the whole time.
But guys like even after WCW went down,
all those guys didn't bother going to WWE.
Yeah, but all those guys didn't have any money.
Goldberg, Flair, Jarrett, they all sat out because
they could have went, but they could have went and they chose not to because they got paid for free.
But let me.
You can't use Ric Flair as an example though because he actually ran out of money later on in his career. Right?
Well, yeah, but that's
Ric Flair's run out of money about six times already.
Limousine driving. And
he drives Uber now instead of limousine.
Yeah, but I mean, you get what I'm saying, right? Like, I'm not saying you're wrong, but nobody who was getting the guaranteed money walked away. They just stayed there.
I think they would have preferred having that alternative.
But someone like Jericho, a successful company, whose contract expired in '99, Jericho's contract, I don't think he was under that guaranteed money contract. That's why
he also didn't leave, right? Like the guaranteed money people, if you really had an issue with the situation, they could have just sat out. They could have chose to sat out and still got paid, but none of them did. They all still kept wrestling.
But let me be the middleman here in stating that there's two things that are a factor here when it comes to not even just having money and then having
there's
spotlight.
a faction for you, the X Factor with X-Pac and Kane.
But,
does that count? Tori Wilson?
No, it was the other Tori.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Tori, just Tori.
But here's my thing.
Sorry, Nick.
But here's my thing, and where I'm kind of agreeing with both. Yeah, you may have Ric Flair sitting out and getting paid, but see, understanding when you have a spotlight, you have an opportunity to make your career stand longer. When you're sitting out, people will either be excited to see you come back, or they'll be like, I don't want to see you anymore. I got bored with it because you never put yourself out there. And that's where the common line is. The thing is I wanted to bring up what JD said earlier with the whole Bischoff putting himself front and center. That's where Vince was smart. Vince is like, listen, I can put myself out there, maybe make myself the bad guy, but I can't put myself out there as one of the boys. I have to make myself the corporate center of the situation, and I can be a star of the show, but I'm trying to make the wrestlers look good so I can make money. But and the thing is, Eric Bischoff didn't seem to feel like he understood that. Does that make sense?
No, whereas it was organic. The hate for McMahon came organically through the Montreal screw job.
But he used it.
But there was more than that. Behind the scenes, announcing McMahon was the best type of McMahon, except for one exception. When he took what he was as the villain and made the corporation, and he became the villain of the whole thing. That's when his writing worked. As soon as he sort of just became a character in the ring, the product started failing because it stopped being about people hating him and him using himself like Bischoff was as like leverage for matches. Yeah. But if he stayed an announcer forever, I think you would have had a much different turnout in WWE. And he was a good announcer.
Match against him. Was it him versus Shawn Michaels and God or something?
I don't know. McMahon was
some weird,
and he was jacked
eras.
as hell, though. He was jacked as hell.
Yeah.
Remember when he was ECW champ and he was wearing the do-rag all the time?
Yes.
He even had the stupid storyline where he died.
Right.
Well, he had to immediately come back to life.
Yeah, he was right around the time when the Benoit thing happened.
Yeah.
They had to direct on that because of the death of Benoit. By the way, question. My Heart Foundation is the Pillman one.
Yes, that's mine too.
Everyone's?
Yeah.
Because the Heart Foundation was a tag team,
Exactly.
but the Heart Foundation, the one that rivaled DX, that's with Pillman, Bulldog, Owen. Like that was the Heart Foundation. Yeah.
That was a great lineup of wrestlers. Like, geez, man. Are you kidding me? They did a lot of coke together.
Was it?
But you know why?
I think only one's still alive.
Brett's
the only one still alive in that group.
Yeah.
Neidhart's dead. Bulldog's dead. Pillman's dead. Owen's dead.
When did Bulldog die?
Right
2010?
No, earlier than that.
Was it 03? I thought it was. I thought he was the last one.
No, Anvil just died.
Oh yeah, just died recently. Yeah, you're right. Because he had a reality show, didn't he?
Yeah. He was on Total Divas all the time.
Yeah.
With Neidhart, Natty, his daughter.
I think Bulldog died around 04, 03, 04, I think.
Yeah.
That's crazy, man. That's crazy.
Pillman died. Was it shortly after Owen?
Well, Pillman was like a rare talent.
Pillman died like 2 months before the screw job.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
He was out of nowhere. I remember that.
Because I remember Bret Hart or the Hart Foundation
addressing
being at the salute, the tribute.
Yeah.
The 10 bell salute.
That's right. And then 99 is when Owen died.
Yeah. The worst part is that he died as the friggin' blue chicken or whatever the hell that guy's name was.
The blue blazer.
The blue blazer.
The blue chicken. Yeah, that was a dumb gimmick. But I mean, and then I think Bulldog was after that, and then for a while it was just Brett and Neidhart were the only two, and now Neidhart just recently passed away.
That's just friggin' crazy, man. That is so crazy. I mean, like that's probably going to be the best time for wrestling. And
we talk about that all the time. There's nothing better.
It's not just the talent; it's the story. What they were trying to achieve.
It was organic. That's the thing. Like the stories told themselves. It's like they were scripted to a certain point, but they weren't completely scripted.
Yeah, but when you have something to talk about, it makes it. It just makes it all the more.
When
wild.
everyone's selling what you're creating, and everyone's buying what they're selling, that's like what was important, and they really bought into it. Like WCW coming out of the no going over the top rope rule era, and then WWE coming out of the Hogan era just blew up. It just took off. There was a whole new way to look at everything. It had never been done
because
before.
it didn't revolve around just Hogan anymore. There was that crop of young talent.
You had much talent. Like the Hogan era. Okay, I'm not saying there wasn't talented people. You had Macho Man and stuff, but you
never focused on anybody.
You had Hogan, and then a really barely like mobile Andre the Giant. That's what everything was focused around for like so long, and it was such a stupid idea. You wasted Ted DiBiase. You wasted Macho Man. You had Macho Man as an announcer because you didn't like him. Like, are you kidding me?
Well,
he was too old.
That's because
well, I mean, that's why that match is.
Bodies.
But I mean, that match is always overshadowed. When you say WrestleMania 3, what's the first thought that comes to your head?
Andre.
Yeah,
I say Savage Steamboat.
Really?
But I think your point is proven.
The casual fan.
I think you prove your point with that, because when you ask somebody, the first thing they think of is not
exactly
Macho Man and Steamboat. It should be.
See, it should be Macho Man and Steamboat.
No, I agree. And see, that's the thing. That's the reason why Steamboat became one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. It's just what I have to say is this. I was going to bring in the whole thing with the Hart Foundation. I feel like when the Hart Foundation, what they did was they were the last of what was the original old school wrestling that made wrestling so popular to mainstream. It wasn't one of those things, you know what I mean? The Hart Foundation, then from the Hart Foundation is when we started getting more of edgy stuff. Now, I mean, like edgy, like what NWO or what Raw was.
Well, it was Bret Hart that coined the term. He called Shawn Michaels and Triple H a bunch of degenerates. Well, that's where Degeneration X came from.
Exactly. And that's my whole point. That's my whole point is I understand why I enjoyed those because it was a change, but I can't forget what made me love it. And for example, those moments as a kid when I'm still using my memory of, like, you know, when you watch Macho Man and Steamboat, there was a lot more technical action. You know what I mean? They had more skill behind their match. But then as a kid, but then when as a kid at the same time to see Hogan, that match wasn't that great as you see it, but it's always the point, even going back, hearing the conversation.
It's for one scene in that match. And that's
exactly when he lifted up Andre.
And that's not even, and they make it, that's not even the first time, even though he body slammed Andre like 3 years
but we're not considering either one of them good wrestlers here.
No, I'm not. But
I'm just saying, like, I think that we kind of look back at it without that fond of memories of that era because of the way it's played out. But when you look at those matches, regardless of how well Hogan or Andre or the Warrior wrestled, the stories that were written for them were amazing. The story between Warrior and Hogan is amazing, regardless of how the match turned out. It's fantastic.
The build-up was better than the build-up was better than the match.
Even the story they told in the match is not too bad. It's just the actual wrestling is not good.
I can ask you guys, like, okay, I know for a fact that Savage and Steamboat pretty much was the better match, but I can pretty much guarantee all you guys that you would probably remember the Hogan Andre match more than the Steamboat Savage match.
That's reason.
Yes and no, because I never gravitated to Hogan. Okay. Hogan, even back then, Hogan to me was like, I can't. He was too much for me. I couldn't do it. My favorite, ever since I watched Roddy Piper smack Jimmy Snuka with a coconut, right there, Piper became my favorite wrestler.
Okay, Johnny, let me ask you a question. What drew you? What got you excited to watch WrestleMania 3? What was the thing what was like, I gotta see this.
Like I see for WrestleMania 3, yes, I wanted to see the Hogan Andre because there was the whole thing with Piper involved in Piper's pit. Remember when Andre ripped off Hogan's shirt and necklace and he like actually cut him and he started to bleed? Yes, that got me. But then again, you also had the mouthpiece of Piper to promo that match for you.
But that's Campbell's. That's Campbell's. That's Campbell's.
Campbell's is.
Sorry.
I want to bring up my
point. That's the build-up.
Hey, go, buddy, go.
this is what I'm going to bring up, because the thing is like in the States, I know here, again, this was at a young age when I was a really little kid, really excited about wrestling. When I was watching, before I got to actually see that WrestleMania and everything, I was seeing Steamboat, and he was way more of an athletic wrestler than even Hogan at that time. That's the reason why I had such a love for him. Okay. But there was so much hype in the States. I don't know how it was in Canada, but there was so much hype in the States.
There was
for Hogan.
hype here too.
Yeah.
Sure.
And so the thing is when I was watching that show, I remember the Steamboat Macho Man match. Don't get me wrong, I loved it. It was a very good match. But at a young age, you have to understand the influence, because I think that might even be why there's such a conversation about this. Is as you get older, you see the technical side. As a kid, to see Hogan do something that as a kid, oh my God, like again, at that time, I'm thinking wrestling is legit, real, everything about it, like they have rivalry, everything. I didn't know that they were talking backstage and Andre's like, you're going to do this. He's like, I can't do it. No, you could do I didn't know about that till later.
Yeah.
So for me, I thought Hogan was like invincible at that point. So yes, seeing him be raising up Andre the Giant made my jaw drop, and the little kid in me just went, well, it was a little kid, literally just was excited about it. Okay.
But I feel like you're defending a point that is exactly what Nick is trying to prove.
Yeah,
but
that
I'm also,
everyone is going to remember that.
But then at the same time, now this is where I'm agreeing with JD. I remember that as a kid, but now the thing is whenever I look back at that, and it's happened several times, and I go to check the other matches, I'm like, I forgot Steamboat was in there, and then I go watch that, and it's more entertaining to watch that than even that match now. Yeah. And that's because I didn't realize as a kid how much better that match was, and it should have been the headliner, just like JD said. But I understand why it wasn't, because
it wasn't the title match. Yeah, even though it was the Intercontinental title. Yeah. But I mean, the thing is, well, that too, the cash, Hogan was their moneymaker. But that's the same reason why to this day I never like someone like John Cena. It's because it's John Cena over and over again. They just recreated Hogan with John Cena.
Can I say, I know, and that's what we talked about that before, with them like reliving the Hogan era with Cena, where they kind of tried to do with Roman Reigns again, where it's like, but
they're doing that
likes
now.
This guy. But
now, like, I mean, talk about factions. I want to add his bloodline faction right now, because you got Heyman, you got Reigns, and you got the Usos together. They're putting on some good stuff right now, those guys, because Heyman's taking care of everything.
John Cena, if you look at his early stuff, it's highly embarrassing.
Yeah,
like
when he was Thug Life. There.
Yeah, that Thug Life.
He talked. Like, I don't know how this ever was like considered like allowed to happen. He like put on a fake, not even like a rapper accent. Like, he tried to sound like he was a black guy.
Yeah, he tried to sound,
and it was so racist that I don't know how it got through. Like, you might as well have just put on blackface.
I think
it was pretty bad.
Even Vince McMahon say the N-word to him or something?
Probably. If you listen to his promos against Lita and Edge, it's pretty, like, it does not hold up. It is so incredibly
I think that's
terrible.
I think that's why Cena never went back to that persona.
Yeah.
It's because he knows that especially if he wants to do, if he does what he wants
to do. At that time,
now.
I think he didn't have any choice but if he wanted to keep getting more pushing, he had to do whatever they told him to do. And
the kids like, gravitated towards him, so they just wrote it.
It was really bad. Like I'm saying, somebody go watch it, type it in on YouTube. It exists.
Yeah,
it's horrible. Like,
it's pretty bad.
I got curious, and besides the Savage and Hogan match, I totally forgot about the rest of the card on WrestleMania 3, and I was just looking through it, and I was like,
I think Jake was on that card, wasn't he?
I remember Piper. I think it was like Piper's retirement match, if I remember correctly. I think he was facing Adrian Adonis.
Yes.
Yeah. I remember that, but I could not remember the rest of the card.
That was Piper's retirement match, was because Vince McMahon wouldn't let him go film They Live.
Yep. I remember that.
So he left.
Which in my eyes is still a great movie to this day. But
isn't there a really good Steamboat and Rick Rude match from WCW?
Yes, there is. I think it was for the United States Championship.
Yeah.
But there's also a great Steamboat Flair match.
Yeah.
That actually was one of those matches that my mom know I love Steamboat, and she hated Rick Rude. So,
like, I think we talked about this last time, but there's a really good whole like video like breakdown of the Vader versus Ric Flair rivalry, like the match and everything, and behind the scenes, like wrestling was so different back then. Like people
Yeah.
were coming up to him and shaking his hand after winning the championship. Other wrestlers like good work. Like it was like special. He was crying. They interviewed him with his whole family, and he's
The
crying that he
Vader,
won
that
the
is, yeah.
championship after he beat him. And it was like that was a well built like
Yeah.
rivalry
Because you're
Flair
bringing
and
this
him.
monster at the time. He was this huge monster in Japan. And basically, he was a heel in Japan, and you bring him over to North America, he becomes your biggest baby face for a while. Because the spectacle of the he used to come out. Remember, he used to come out with that mastodon helmet with the smoke coming out of the.
Crap. Yeah, I remember that. Didn't he lose his eye in Japan? He
It
lost
popped
his-
out of his skull. Yes.
That's
Didn't he die?
Yeah, he
Vader
passed away a
died.
couple years ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's
Anyway.
it's because of him. Mick Foley doesn't have an ear.
Yeah.
Uh,
I don't have
mean,
anything else.
Don't be,
Vader-
don't be
Vader
telling
was a-
anybody. Don't
Sorry?
be telling wrestling's fake, man. Don't be
Yeah.
telling people.
Well,
It's scripted,
It's-
but the
it's-
injuries are real.
Yeah, man. You know.
The actions are real.
It's
They get
basically
hurt.
they are stunt.
That's what I
basically.
would consider them
Yeah.
as. They're
Yeah,
like
stunt
stunt
work.
people.
well, let's
Yeah.
put it this way. I just always tell people, like, you know, they say, well, you could tell when they hit each other, they're literally using like their arms or their hands. I'm like, yeah, but you have to understand. If I were to lift you up right now, even on a good mat, or if I were to sling you around, there's a lot of injuries you can pertain. So the choreograph, the working together, that is what makes it fake. But at the same time, you have to be athletically strong to do a lot of that stuff.
They
And I
train
guarantee you-
years just
Exactly.
falling on their back to take a bump.
You have to learn
Yeah.
how to take a fall. It's like they
Yeah.
teach you that in hockey as well. You have to learn
Like,
how to
go
fall
watch-
before
go
you can play
watch-
contact hockey.
Go watch Kenny Omega when he does his Snapdragon suplex. He makes it look like it looks so devastating, but the person receiving it on the end, he goes, it's like falling on a nice fluffy pillow because.
But
he's
didn't
so
he say
careful.
he doesn't want to do that anymore, or was that
He did it
AJ
to-
Styles
he just-
and his
the
special?
Styles Clash? Yeah,
Yeah.
he doesn't want to do the Styles Clash anymore.
That's the reason why a lot of people will not do the pile driver because
Yeah.
of the problems they've had. And you have to be really, really good in order to
mean,
pull up any type of
Only
pile driver.
Undertaker's allowed to do it. He
Yeah.
almost killed Goldberg.
Darby Allin jumped off a second deck with a friggin' chair duct taped to his back onto Tax. So,
Darby Allin's insane. Isn't he going to be
Uh.
in the new Jackass?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to see that so badly, by the way.
That's crazy.
But yeah,
That's
I mean,
crazy.
other than that, I'm done with my list. So if you
Yeah. I
guys are
have
done,
nothing. I have nothing else.
Only one I had
Oh.
left was right to censor, just because.
okay,
I
let's
like
add
This guy has right to censor. Get out of here.
Let's
let's
play
add,
this back
let's
to me.
add Kevin Sullivan in the Dungeon of Doom just for how ridiculous.
That's
that
what I was thinking of. Oh my gosh, we started talking about Hogan and I completely forgot.
with the Zodiac, the Yeti.
Yeah, I mean, you
We
took
can always
a
go-
really good wrestler. What was Earthquake's actual name?
John Tenta.
And he was a good wrestler, like
The
for
Shark?
a guy of his size. And they took him and they made him into
Well,
Hey,
my,
did you guys
my-
ever see that wrestling match with Earthquake in Japan with that wrestler? It turned into a shoot,
yeah.
like a straight fight.
I actually
Yeah.
watched that. I recently watched the
it's-
Flair and I mean not Flair, Lex Luger and
Brody?
Bruiser Brody.
Bruiser Brody.
And it's like he's like, I just left. He's like, I said no way, and I jumped over
Yeah.
the thing and I was gone. I was like,
Yeah,
oh my god.
Bruiser Brody was one of the real legit, like just like Meng. Nobody wants to get into a fight with Meng.
And
legit.
that's what a lot of people said about Pillman too. They were like, you never knew what was going to happen with Pillman. He might not do it in the ring, but backstage he might come up to you and punch you in the face. So
That's why they called him the loose cannon, right?
and for some reason in my head, I'm just sitting here thinking about it. Didn't we actually have like a bunch that were kind of like the corporation, like the authority? The let me see here. Hold on.
I mean, there
Oh,
was
it
the
goes
authority
on.
recently. Yeah, there was the authority recently with like it was Triple H, Batista,
the authority,
Seth
the
Rollins.
alliance, the union, like names like that. Like they were going through so many
factions
different.
now happen so often and then they just disappear. What was the one with the NXT guys?
Nexus.
Nexus, yeah.
Yeah, and they ran into John Cena, and that's the end of that.
You were building these guys up as the biggest thing. After a month, they meet John Cena, and it's just all over. It's like so stupid.
And then
I
they
don't know.
became the core.
Yeah, well, there was less people though, right?
Yeah, I think Wyatt was a young pre Bray Wyatt. He was Husky Harris at the time, part of that Nexus. David Otunga, ex Mr. Jennifer Lawrence.
Ooh. I'd like to be
Ooh.
ex Mr. Jennifer Lawrence.
But yeah, other than on that note, guys, I guess we're all done with this one. So until Putty Man, Campo, you want to plug your stuff? They'll be in the bio.
Check me out, Johnny Donuts 777.
They already know where that is.
Actually, I'll actually do a real plug. I actually changed
Yeah.
the name now. For those that are familiar, no longer Gamer Potheads. You can find it on my old channel, but now we have changed it to just Putty. So if you want to find me, Putty, that's as simple as that. So,
And I will have his stuff and everybody's stuff in the bio. And until next time, thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you next time.